For 4 years, my life ran on exhaustion. Not the normal kind of tired you feel after a long day. I mean the kind of exhaustion that settles into your bones, the kind that becomes your permanent state of existence. Every night at 10 p.m., I clocked into a warehouse job. The fluorescent lights buzzed overhead while forklifts groaned through narrow aisles of stacked boxes. The air always smelled like cardboard and machine oil. At 6:30 in the morning, I would leave work. Most people were just waking up. I was going home to shower, change clothes, and rush to my 8 a.m. college classes. Sleep happened whenever it could. 2 hours here, 3 hours there. Sometimes not at all. My apartment was a basement unit beneath an old house. The walls smelled faintly of damp concrete, and a single bare light bulb hung from the ceiling above my desk. That desk was made from 2 milk crates and a slab of plywood. That was where I studied. That was where I ate. That was where I slowly built a future my parents had always told me I would have to earn alone. Whenever I complained about the workload, my parents would say the same thing. We wish we could help you, Mark, but we just don't have anything to give. They said struggle would build character. They said independence was the greatest gift a parent could give a child. And for 4 years, I believed them. Until the day I graduated. The ceremony itself was uneventful. Caps in the air. Photos with classmates. My parents clapping politely from the audience. Everything looked normal. After the ceremony, an older man approached me near the campus fountain. He wore a dark suit and carried a thin leather briefcase. He introduced himself as Mr. Henderson, my grandfather's lawyer. My grandfather had died 5 years earlier. He'd been a quiet man, the type who watched more than he spoke. The last conversation I had with him was in a hospital room that smelled like antiseptic and fading flowers. He had squeezed my hand and told me something strange. Education is the one thing no one can take from you. At the time, it felt like a nice sentence. Something people say when they know they're running out of time. Mr. Henderson opened his briefcase and handed me a thick folder. I believe this belongs to you, he said. I assumed it was a letter, maybe a sentimental gift, something symbolic. Instead, it was a stack of financial documents, bank transfers, signed confirmations, yearly payment records. For a moment, the numbers didn't make sense. Then they began to form a pattern. Every year since my freshman year of college, $40,000 had been transferred. Not to me, to my parents. Specifically labeled Education Trust Distribution, Mark's tuition. My grandfather had left $40,000 per year to pay for my education. 4 years, $160,000. And according to the records, my parents had confirmed receiving every single payment. Mr. Henderson frowned when he saw my confusion. You did receive the trust support for your tuition, correct? I shook my head slowly. I paid for everything myself. Student loans. Night shifts. I paid for every dollar. The lawyer's expression changed. Not dramatically. Just a small tightening around the eyes. The kind of expression people make when they realize they've just stepped into something uncomfortable. He pointed to the final page in the folder. The most recent payment, $40,000. Transferred just 3 weeks earlier. The exact week my younger brother Julian had posted a photo on Instagram. Standing beside a brand new Jeep. The caption read, I remember standing there, holding those papers, feeling like gravity had suddenly shifted. My parents hadn't just failed to help me. They had intercepted the money meant for me. They had quietly accepted my grandfather's education trust every year, while telling me they had nothing. But the truth became even clearer when I thought about Julian. Julian didn't work night shifts. Julian didn't study in basement apartments. Julian had a different journey. Every Sunday evening, I visited my parents for dinner. I would arrive still wearing my warehouse uniform, steel-toe boots, reflective vest stuffed into my backpack, eyes red from sleep deprivation. And every week my parents had the same ritual. They would sit me down in the living room and show me Julian's newest video. Julian had started a travel vlog. He was finding himself. One week, he was in Thailand. The next week, he was on a beach in the Maldives. The videos were always the same. Drone shots, cocktails, sunsets, expensive hotels. My mother would watch the screen with pride glowing in her face. Julian has a spark, she would say. Some people are meant to chase big dreams. Then she would turn toward me and add gently, "You're different, Mark. You're steady, reliable. You don't need help like he does." And I believed her. I believed that being the responsible one meant carrying more weight. I believed that my struggle was proof of my strength. I believed that Julian needed the support more than I did. What I didn't realize was that my struggle was funding his freedom. The money my grandfather left for my education wasn't paying my tuition. It was paying for Julian's camera equipment, his flights, his hotels, his carefully staged luxury lifestyle. While I was stacking boxes at 3 a.m., my parents were financing a fantasy. In psychology, there is a concept known as the talent versus effort bias. In dysfunctional families, parents often divide their children into roles. One child becomes the dreamer, the talented one, the special one whose potential must be nurtured at all costs. The other becomes the reliable one, the worker, the one who can survive hardship without breaking. And once those roles are assigned, something strange happens. The dreamer is constantly supported. The worker is constantly tested. Because parents begin to believe the worker doesn't need help. Their struggle becomes proof of strength. Their suffering becomes convenient. In my family, I was the worker. My resilience wasn't admired. It was exploited. Standing beside the campus fountain with that folder in my hands, I finally understood something. My parents didn't see my hardship as a tragedy. They saw it as a resource, a way to redirect money where they believed it truly belonged. Julian, the golden child, the rising star, the influencer with 12 subscribers. For several days after graduation, I didn't call them. I didn't confront them. Instead, I studied the documents. The trust agreement was clear. The money was legally mine. The payments had been intended specifically for my education. But my parents had signed for the funds on my behalf, without my knowledge, without my permission. And in legal terms, that wasn't just unethical. It was fraud. Identity fraud and embezzlement. My parents believed they had quietly rewritten my future. What they didn't realize was that they had also created a paper trail. 2 weeks later, Julian hosted a party. He called it his channel launch celebration. Apparently, he had finally reached 1,000 subscribers. The event was held in the backyard of my parents' house. Music, string lights, influencer friends taking photos beside the Jeep. I didn't attend the party, but someone else did, a sheriff's deputy. He walked through the gate holding a sealed envelope. Inside were legal documents, a formal notice, a simple choice. Return the $160,000 education trust within 30 days, or face criminal charges. My mother called me immediately. Her voice was trembling with anger. How could you do this to your own family? I remember sitting quietly in my basement apartment, listening to her words echo through the phone. Finally, I answered. I'm not doing anything to the family, I said calmly. I'm just auditing it. Julian sold the Jeep within a week. My parents took out a second mortgage on their house. And for the first time in 4 years, slept through the night, not because the situation was resolved, but because something inside me had finally shifted. The exhaustion I had carried for so long wasn't just physical. It was the weight of believing a lie. The lie that my suffering was necessary. That my struggle was noble. That sacrifice was the price of love. But sometimes the hardest lesson in life is realizing this. Your potential is not meant to be a sacrifice for someone else's ego. Trust is important, but trust without verification is just vulnerability. Because paperwork tells the truth that people often hide. And if there is one rule I learned from my grandfather, it's this. Always read the documents. Now I ask you something. If your own family stole your future, would you still call it family? Or would you call it what it really is? If you would have filed the charges too, comment justice below.